Cool Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yamin of Revolution, and Trump backstabs his voters and goes on an imperialistic dictator, white supremacist like nonsense rant that has me so upset. We got to discuss it. Before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Well, revolution is a way of life, and revolution is for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I got some revolutionary nighttime dinner. We got nighttime classes. Roll up that good dinner, man. We have to discuss this. The elephant in the room. I have been seeing this flashing on the news, but I overlooked it until yesterday. I got to hear Trump rant about the Panama Canal and Greenland, and he might change the name of the Gulf of America. I said, that's disgusting. Sent my blood pressure through the roof. I almost passed out. I say, you backstabbing liar. You said you was going to be all about America. Now you're trying to be a globalist. Only the globalists want Trump to make these pathetic, narcissistic moves. The Democrats are happy to hear that he wants to be a dictator and seize people's land in Greenland. What the fuck is Trump talking about? Seize the Panama Canal. Are you fucking outrageous? That don't belong to you. He wouldn't say he refused to use military force. That had me pissed off. We did not vote for Trump in for him to be talking about imperial bullshit. Let's get into it, though. Very disgusting what Trump is talking about.
Project. Let's start with his Greater America project. He was asked if he would rule out military action, taking military action to gain the Panama Canal and Greenland, and he actually refused to. He refused to say that he would not use military action.
And that was very disgusting.
This.
Let's start.
I'm gonna let y'all hear.
We could with your references to Greenland and the Panama Canal, so forth. Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't assure you. You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two.
That was bullshit. Ran my blood to the pressure through the roof. I said, okay, I knew we was gonna bring it to the table. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. We're not gonna run and duck from bullshit that Trump pulled. He pulled it. We're gonna discuss it right here on this platform. That's imperialistic bullshit, and that helps the one world government. He wants to break the BRICS alliance. He's trying to do an energy hogging, and remember, they want the U.S. to do it because the U.S. is the only NATO empire that can actually think about it. Seizing the Panama Canal. What the fuck? That don't belong to the U.S. What you mean? You might use military force to seize that. What the hell are you talking about? You might have to take Greenland or buy Greenland. I want people to understand this. America is $35 trillion in the hole. You don't got no money to be buying no land mass. No, they're talking about taking our tax monies for their imperialist adventures. Trump is out of line. When I see him, like, is this man dead? Is this Trump? Somebody see if this is a clone or something. Because we didn't vote for this shit.
But I can say this. We need them for economic security.
No,
the Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China.
It's been operated by China. It's been operated by Panama. Bro, that's disrespectful as hell for him to be talking about. That's none of your business. It don't belong to you. They don't belong to you. Now he's telling you what we finna have to be dealing with. Imperial BS. Not make America, and then he trying to mask it as that's what's going to make America strong. And nah, fuck no, that's going to make the globalists strong and be able to try to break the BRICS in dominance.
China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion, more so maybe than the hostages. The hostages were a big deal. But if you remember, and nobody wants to talk about the Panama Canal now because, you know, it's inappropriate, I guess, but because it's a bad part of the Carter legacy. But he was a good man. Look, he was a good man. I knew him a little bit. And he was.
Now I see why they ran Kamala Harris to get beat on like that, because they already knew what Trump was. They told Trump that this man could give a fuck about any of this shit he talking about. The Zionists and the small hats, they're telling him to say this shit to keep their empire going, and he's saying it.
He was a very fine person, but that was a big mistake. Giving the Panama Canal to Panama was a very big mistake. We lost 38,000 people. It cost us the equivalent of $1 trillion, maybe more than that. Probably the most expensive. They say it was the most expensive structure, if we call it a structure, which I guess you can, ever built. And giving that away was a horrible thing. And I believe that's why Jimmy Carter lost the election, even more so than the hostages. Those two things.
Okay. Panama Canal definitely was a very big, expensive U.S. funded project. U.S. workers, U.S. money went into building that Panama Canal. This is all about China. In fact, Greenland, and we're going to go deeper into Greenland next segment. I want to focus on that specifically, but Greenland and Panama Canal have everything to do with China and the growing influence of China, a bit about Russia as well when it comes to the Arctic region and Arctic routes, shipping routes up there. Russia's doing a lot of work in that region, of course, because they're right there in the Arctic zone. But this all has to do with China, and Trump is dead serious about it. Would he take the Panama Canal using military force? I don't think he will need to. Quite honestly, I think that Panama will cave and just say, all right, fine. What do you want from us? I think China's already preparing for this. So China's going to say, all right, fine. We're already building our own canal.
And it's not just about taking the Panama Canal, which is very disgusting imperialistic talk. It's the fact that he said we should change the Gulf of Mexico. That rubbed me the wrong motherfucking way. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? We didn't elect you to be talking about renaming no Gulf of Mexico. That's serious business. You see? That's why I said we got to come out and denounce any white supremacists in that Republican Party who now are putting this type of nonsense on the goddamn table. What the fuck are y'all talking about? How that going to make life better for us to rename the Gulf of Mexico?
In Nicaragua. So what happens with Panama Canal, I think is yet to be seen. I'm sure what'll happen is Panama will just say to the United States, okay, fine. What do you want from us? We'll do it. We'll give you a better deal. You know, this is how Trump gets his deal. He threatens.
Let them know we made them. We put his ass in office. We'll take them. They know we have seized the Republican Party. It's ours now. Bastards. And they're not going to be doing things the old way. No, it's a new goddamn day. And we finna stand up for our vote. We didn't ask for none of this shit. And we're not going to have a pure presidency about these bastards when they want to rename lakes after they got themselves in their own image. Not on my watch. You won't be doing that type of shit.
The military force, and then usually the other side caves. And that's worked for him in his first term. Whether or not it continues to work, I think it would work with Panama. I don't know if it would work with other regions of the world. That is yet to be seen. And we'll talk about some of the warmongery comments that he made during his press conference today, because that matters. I mean, if these other countries stop taking him serious and they say, you know what, never mind, we'll just go to war with you because we're not going to be bullied by you anymore.
Now, Hamas done already told them, fuck it. We talking about Hamas. They better get them hostages back by the time he get in office, or else all hell going to break loose. Man, people tell them hell with him, man. Hell with him. And they already going through hell. What more can he do to them?
Then that strategy doesn't work. That negotiation tactic of shaking them down for their milk money, that is, that strategy only lasts for so long. All right. So then he talks about the Gulf of America. He wants to rename. Why? I don't know. This is just make America great again. Bullshit. Go and rename some places on a map if they.
Bullshit. That's white supremacy, lady. You might not know. We taking away. Go ask Gulf of Mexico. Man, we got bigger things to do. We're trying to feed our families. We're trying to get jobs back to America. We will not be going for this. No, we don't want to rename the Gulf of motherfucking Mexico. They used to call that woke. I thought that was being woke. Hell no, man. We're not going through it. We're not going through it. Republican Party, y'all want to do this 4 years? We can do it morning, noon, and night. Fuck no. That's too woke to be trying to rename the Gulf of Mexico.
They say, Mexico, make them America. That's what's going to make America great again. So he talks about changing the name.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate.
Well, I mean, I guess, you know, the Gulf of Mexico certainly does take up quite a few of the U.S. states.
Nah, bullshit. You don't get to just come out here renaming shit like y'all fucking Christopher Columbus. That's bullshit. That's imperialistic nonsense. Hell you talking about? You're just a baby nation. You just got here. Where's your manners at? That's rude.
It was named Gulf of Mexico because at the time, many of those U.S. states were Mexico. They were not the United States. So it was the Gulf of Mexico. Now, Texas and Louisiana and all of, I don't know if, Louisiana was never Mexico, right? But Texas certainly was. So when you're going up in the Gulf Coast, a lot of it was Mexico at the time. Now, a lot of it's America. It's maybe about 50-50 between the two, maybe a little bit more America. So he wants to rename it Gulf of America. And guess what? Marjorie Taylor Greene announced that she is filing legislation to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. And sorry, I am getting an alert right now that we may have to evacuate soon because of the fires. This is just a nightmare. Okay, so not yet, but it looks like the fires are spreading towards me, guys, and there might be a possibility that we all have to. We'll see how the evacuation zone goes, but I might end up being in it. Hopefully not. Okay, so Marjorie Taylor Greene announced that she is going to be filing legislation to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America after President-elect Donald Trump made the pitch during a press conference. Okay, this press conference was wild, I tell you. It was wild. All right, the next thing he talks about is Ukraine and NATO expansion and how that pissed off Russia. Couldn't agree more with him on this one.
You know, a big part of the problem was Russia for many, many years, long before Putin said you could never have NATO involved with Ukraine. Now, they've said that. That's been like written in stone. And somewhere along the line, Biden said, no, they should be able to join NATO.
Putin not finna perceive this. Oh, they think they'll be able to rock Putin to sleep. Boy, you just talked about seizing land and renaming shit. You're imperialist. Putin not gonna be listening to nothing you say. You can't make Putin think that you the good guy or none of that type of shit. Because you already starting off wanting to dominate and seize stuff. So the sun had never set on the Anglo-Saxon Empire, nigga.
Yeah, well, then Russia has somebody right on their doorstep, and I could understand their feeling about that. But there were a lot of mistakes made in that negotiation. And when I heard the way that Biden was negotiating, I said, you're going to end up in a war. And it turned out to be a very bad war. And it could escalate. That war could escalate to be much worse than it is right now.
They can never join NATO.
Well, my view is that it was always understood. In fact, I believe that they had a deal and then Biden broke it. They had a deal which would have been a satisfactory deal to Ukraine and everybody else, but that Biden said, no, you have to be able to join NATO.
Okay. So he's right on this. This is absolutely what provoked Russia. It would provoke the United States. Any normal, rational thinking person would understand that. That then provoked Russia to go to war because we kept giving Ukraine hope, thinking, you know, trying to dangle that. Yeah, we'll put you in NATO. We're still saying that. Yeah, we'll put you in NATO. Don't worry about it. We'll put you in NATO. Now, talking about NATO, the first term of Trump, he said that he would get rid of NATO. He talked a lot about getting rid of NATO. It turns out that was a negotiation tactic. I know a lot of us would love to see the dismantling of NATO. We don't see how it's useful anymore for the United States. European countries should be able to protect themselves. The U.S., we're way over here.
That's why you talk about seizing Green. Remember this. We talking about they're going to buy Greenland. These people owe $35 trillion. Where the fuck they gonna get money to buy a territory? That's what people need to understand and teach your kids. The U.S. do not have no magical money laying around. They got a money printer, but you working hard, they got your tax money. Come on, man. And that's all on the behalf of the Anglo-Saxons so that they will not be defeated in this energy war with BRICS. That's what it's all about. And they're going to use this image of Trump, and he's going to do whatever they say. They want him to talk like this, man. It helps them.
We're the only country that ever triggered Article 5 that was after 9/11. So there's a lot of questioning. There's a lot of questions about about NATO and what Trump's agenda really was on that. So Trump made all of us believe he wanted to get rid of NATO. Now it turns out all he really wanted was for NATO to just pay more, that there was really no incentive for him to get rid of NATO entirely. Watch this.
But a prime minister up from a country, a famous meeting of 28 nations with no press, no anybody in the room. He stood up. He says, does that mean?
Get to flying them drones over his golf course. Then a man come out here who don't want war and get to talking about war and season more shit.
If we don't pay our bill, and at that point it was 2%, it should be 5%. It should be 5%, not 2%. But at that point it was 2%, but many people didn't pay. Some people didn't pay anything. But many people were way, including Germany. Germany was at less than 1%. Well, I think NATO should have 5%. Yeah. Well, you can't do it at 2%. I mean, at 2%, every country, if you're going to have a country in a regular military, you're at 4%. I think they should be, they're in dangerous territory. I think it should be, they can all afford it, but they should be at 5%, not 2%. I'm the one that got them to pay 2%. But a gentleman stood up, a prime minister stood up, and he said to me, sir, could I ask you a question? You're saying we have to pay our bills. If we don't pay our bills, will the United States protect us from Russia? I said, if you don't pay, you mean you're delinquent? He said, yes. He said, if you're delinquent, we will not protect you. I took a lot of heat. Although it was somewhat closed door, I took a lot of heat from the media. And you know what happened? The money started pouring in. That's why NATO has money. And the Secretary General said it was the most incredible thing he had ever seen in a negotiation. Now, if I would have said, yes, we will, nobody would have paid. If I would have loved to say, yes, we'll protect you even if you don't pay. But that's not the way life works.
Okay, so it's really just a business agreement. That's the issue with NATO. He was never really wanting to get rid of NATO. He was just wanting to make NATO countries pay more. So if you were a big supporter of Donald Trump, how does this make you feel? I'm curious, do you think, oh, okay, that's fine? Or do you feel a little bit duped? Like, no, I thought he meant really genuinely that he was going to get us out of NATO, that he didn't see a need for it anymore. But instead, it turns out this was just part of the deal. Do you feel a little bit like you got had in that deal somewhat? Curious about that. Same thing when it comes to immigration, right? We just now had that debate about H-1B visas. Trump kept saying immigrants, and even in his first term, he said H-1B visa was being abused. People were coming in. They were just replacing American workers and undercutting American workers, because what they could do with these H-1B visa holders is they could work them to death. They couldn't complain. They couldn't switch jobs. And they would work for less money, and they'd work more hours for less money than an American. They were basically exploiting them because they knew that Americans had a different quality of life, a different standard, and wanted to get paid for their work. Whereas if you bring over people from India and they're dirt poor over there and they come over here and they're excited to be here, they're grateful to be here, they're going to work 20 hours a day for you if you demand it. That has been exposed. Trump called it out during his first.
I knew them. I told y'all them small hats was going to be a problem. Whoever got in there, we were going to have to deal with that because they control them parties. But for this dude to make this type of imperialist rant before he even get sworn in is a bad fucking sign, man. That's not a good sign. Revolutionary salute, Queen. That's not a good goddamn sign, man. For him to talk about renaming the Gulf of Mexico, that really pissed me off. Bitch, I just voted for you. That is white supremacy. I don't give a damn how you cut it, bro. We got to deal with, you know what I'm saying? We don't 100% align with nobody. But he's not even talking about the shit that got him in there, you see? And this is a major motherfucking problem, bro. We didn't work hard to get this clown elected for him to give the agenda away to the globalists. That's nonsense. Oh, we have to go buy Greenland. Man, how that's going to give us more jobs at home?
first term. Now what is he doing? Backpedaling on that. Does that make you feel had a little? Was that some sort of art of a deal negotiation that he was doing? Or now is he just caving to the largest political donor this political cycle, Elon Musk, who relies on H-1B visa workers, apparently? Okay, let's move on to war. Here's another big one. Trump said he was against war. He wanted peace, but now he's threatening the Middle East with basically complete and total annihilation. Watch this.
All hell will be paid. All hell must be paid if they don't release the hostages.
Well, do I have to define it for you? Look, all
No, I know
hell
you're not
will
gonna
break out.
telegraph
If
what-
those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time.
Revolutionary salute to our Queen Toolbox Evolution for donation to the war chest. She said, Most High, bless and protect you. I absolutely want the Most High to bless and protect you as well, Queen. Appreciate the donation to the war chest. Revolution is a way of life. When these dudes finna talk about if those hostages are not returned, when it's come out of his mouth, I'm like, do you want to have the World War III? Because you can get it demanding that the people release them hostages when they haven't got their people back yet. They ain't gonna do it. They lost way too many people to be handing them over just because Trump said so. What you gonna do? You gonna send your soldiers? You gonna do more bombing? Come on, man. That's outrageous that he said it, but he already entrapped himself in it because Hamas done already said, fuck him, nigga, do what you gonna say. Do what you said you're gonna do.
I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them. They should have never been the attack of October 7th. People forget.
Because that's what the Zionists want you to say, because the U.S. military lost to the Taliban. So they not worried about none of that. If you want to send more Americans to die, then that's what you're going to do. But they not giving no hostages up. Now the ball in your court. Mr. President, you got yourself a Middle East war now. Because you heard them. If they don't give them hostages up, go look at the statement Hamas gave. I'm not going to play it on here. They shut your channel down. Say you support terrorism. Go look at the statement. They told them, come get them. What you waiting for? You know where they at? That was nonsense, man.
All hell will
Before
be
I
paid.
take office.
Okay.
All hell must be paid if they don't release the hostages.
Right. Okay. So there he's saying all hell is going to break loose if they don't release the hostages, that he's going to go and annihilate the Palestinians. Annihilate, he says, Hamas, but we all know the people that have been annihilated are the actual civilian people, the Palestinian people. And he's saying, give us the hostages back or else we're going to continue a genocide. It's going to be worse than what's happening to you right now, essentially. The genocide will get worse under Donald Trump is what he says. Is that what people voted for when they voted for Donald Trump? I'm just really curious about that. Does this type of negotiation tactic work? When it comes to the Palestinian people and how oppressed they've been by the Israelis, nothing has worked for them at all. And the only thing that's they're banking on is the fact that the world is opening up their eyes to the treatment that they've been enduring for 70 plus years. And now the world is actually seeing it and paying attention to it. And there's the internet and there's free speech and people are able to actually discuss it and talk about it. And now they're seeing the narrative change. So not to mention the number of hostages Israel is holding is like 100 times higher than the number of hostages Hamas is holding. That is a verified fact. Israel, though, the narrative is they don't call them hostages. They call them prisoners. And Hamas, they have hostages and Israel has prisoners. But Israel's prisoners look like hostages. I mean, many of them are civilians. Many of them are children, women, children, others, and Israel's holding them, but they get to say they're a prisoner. And, they've got our hostages. And so a lot of that is the framing. But Trump is saying to them, and the reason why Hamas won't give up their hostages is because Israel won't give them their hostages. They're wanting their hostages back. They're wanting to do a hostage swap, and Israel doesn't want to do it. Israel instead wants to commit a genocide. And Trump is now saying, go ahead and commit the genocide if they don't give the hostages back. What's in it for the Palestinians? So they would give up the hostages and not get their own hostages back? And the only reason why they would do that is because if they don't, they get genocided. I mean, this is one would have to really think, what type of negotiation is that? How would you respond if you were Palestinian? Okay, Trump then talks about Iran. A reporter asks him about whether or not his administration would do a preemptive first strike on Iran, and Trump refuses to answer. Let's see here.
The last time you were here, you were asked a question about the U.S. possibly launching a preemptive strike on Iran. You said you wouldn't answer that question.
On who?
Obviously, on Iran. The U.S. launching a preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear facilities.
And I said, I don't talk about it. It's a military strategy.
But it is a legitimate question. It's something that,
Well, it's not really, because only a stupid person would answer it. Look, it's a military strategy, and I'm not answering your questions on military strategy.
Yeah. See,
Fair enough. I don't think he should answer on military.
a blind man can see that because Russia done beat them down and humiliated them so bad in Iran. Now they finna bully people. Now they finna bully the Panama Canal, bully Hamas, try to bully Iran. They're gonna do it. They don't give a fuck about losing no war. They're gonna smash some shit, and that's what's on their plate. You see, they're asking him the most outrageous questions a person could ask somebody. Where's the war gonna be? Who you gonna annihilate? What you gonna seize next? What? All imperialistic questions that they already knew. All those is planted questions. He already knew all that type of murder and mayhem was coming.
Military strategy,
Because
but
they
it
gotta
is
show the world they tough. You know, instead of going deal with North Korea, go deal with China, go fight Russia. No, they want to take the Panama Canal.
Strategy is the same strategy he's always taken, and that is, I'm going to threaten you and threaten you with annihilation or threaten you with some bad things, and that'll hopefully get you to the table to negotiate. The question we have is whether or not he's going to take that tactic with Russia, and whether or not that would work. Would it work with Iran? Would it work with Russia? Russia in particular, would it work? Would it work with China? All of these threats. A lot of these players are positioning themselves.
Yeah, Russia and Iran signed a defense pact January the 17th before he can get in office. So if he think he's going to attack Iran, then he might as well fight Russia. If you want to fight Russia, then you might well fight Russia. Because you fight Iran, you're going to fight Russia.
To just say, fine, go for it. Try us. We dare you. We know that you're just doing this for art of the deal. You think that this is going to pressure us, but we're actually going to call your bluff on this because we're ready to go. If you're serious about striking, so are we. We're serious too. So this only works if the other side is truly weaker and more afraid of you. But the minute they're not, this doesn't work. And this could genuinely, horrifically backfire. And that is my concern, is that these countries, they were paying attention to the news. They knew that they saw what it was like under Trump in the first term. They saw Trump lose. Biden got in there. They all got a bit of a breather for 4 years, somewhat. I mean, Russia, obviously, things got worse for them. They ended up having to go to war. But there was certainly they weren't being threatened blatantly the way Trump is doing as an act of negotiation. So they had time to kind of circle the wagons and figure things out. They also saw the writing on the wall that Trump would likely be reelected. So they were planning for that. Here he is. He's making the same threats that he did in the first term, but these other countries are in a different playing position. And we're playing a game of chess, and these other players have been studying the board for a bit longer, and they're kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is really going to work. Now moving on to Canada, Trump has been making a lot of interesting comments about turning Canada, the entire nation of Canada, into the 51st state. Obviously, that right there seems kind of ridiculous because Canada's a massive country. It's got a lot of provinces. You would turn it into many states, not just the 51st state, one giant state of Canada. So it seems like it's in jest, but is it? Is it? I don't know.
If we were to work under the assumption that you're serious about making Canada the 51st state of the United States, the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no circumstance will it ever be the 51st state.
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't.
You had suggested.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
Sir Lopez, you said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like.
He's reading a playbook from the IMF, the Economic Monetary Fund, the globalists. He's doing what they want him to do, You see, but they won't allow him to military threaten a NATO member. So you see, they say, well, economic pressure. But we're going to make them part. He not making them part of his empire. This do nothing for him. He's doing this for the globalists, and that's disgusting. What he doing? They're saying.
Looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada.
From who?
So many friends up there.
From who? That is a globalist mafioso scheme. We basically protect Canada. From who? Who's threatening Canada? Oh, man.
I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada. We lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need their lumber. We have to unrestrict them because stupid people put, restrictions on, but I can do that with an executive order. We don't need anything they have. We don't need their dairy products. We have more than they have. We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more to protect Canada? And I said that to, as I called him, Governor Trudeau. I said, listen, what would happen if we didn't subsidize you, if we didn't, because we give them a lot of money. We help them. As an example, we're buying icebreakers, and Canada wants to join us in the buying of icebreakers. I said, we don't really want to have a partner in the buying of icebreakers. We don't need a partner. But no right. Nope. No right. Here's what we have. We have a right not to help them with their financial difficulties because we owe $36 trillion too. We're going to start knocking it out pretty fast, but we're going to be able to do it because of energy and other things. But no right. No right. But why are we supporting a country 200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve. Canada wouldn't be able to function if we didn't take their 20% of our car market. Yes. They send us hundreds of thousands of cars. They make a lot of money with that. They send us a lot of other things that we don't need. We don't need their cars, and we don't need the other products. We don't need their milk. We got a lot of milk. We got a lot of everything, and we don't need any of it. So I said to him, well, why are we doing it? He said, I don't really know. He was unable to answer the question, but I can answer it.
We're here tonight. We got to deal with the truth. This man is them turned our votes into imperialist BS rants that only help the globalists. It only help the small hats and the Zionists reign forever. This is nonsense. This is absolutely outrageous. What he is saying he want to focus on. Everything he talk about, he never said none of this shit when he was trying to get elected. It's like he got elected, then they gave him a whole new, tell him what we really got our eyes set on. What? Canada? We're here to protect Canada. Bro, we don't want to hear about y'all shakedown schemes for fleecing Canada. Why are you wasting our time?
We're doing it because of habit, and we're doing it because we like our neighbors, and we've been good neighbors, but we can't do it forever, and it's a tremendous amount of money. And why should we have a $200 billion deficit and add on to that many, many other things that we give them in terms of subsidy? And I said, that's okay to have if you're a state, but if you're another country, we don't want to have it. We're not going to have it with European Union either. European Union, we have a trade deficit of $350 billion. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm product. They don't take anything. And so we're not going to have it with them either.
Okay, so he's threatening Canada, saying we don't need them. They need us. We don't need them. So why are we helping them? What are we doing here? There's one big reason why you would want to help your neighbor when you're if you're a country and you've got a large neighbor like Canada next to you, is not simply because you are a kind country and you like helping out others. There's also an issue of national security in regards to it. What you don't want to have on your border is a failed state. And that's the issue we have with Mexico. That's why we have a lot of people crossing over the Mexico-US border. If Mexico wasn't a failed state, essentially, if Mexico wasn't as dangerous as it is, if it got the corruption out of their government, their police forces, then people from Latin America wouldn't be so eager to come running to the United States. They might stay in Mexico. Same thing with Mexico's southern borders. If the states below Mexico weren't failed nations, they wouldn't see all of this immigration. Immigration is caused by poverty and war and failed nations. And so you want your neighbors to be as strong as possible just to keep your own national security intact. So there is a benefit to doing it. Even if you don't really get anything from that country, what you are getting is security. And that is, that's a pretty darn big one. If Canada becomes a failed nation and people start flooding into Canada knowing they can just come across the Canadian-US border, that's an issue of national security. So something to think about there. Trudeau has come out, though, and said, here's Trump once again saying, many people in Canada love being the 51st state. The United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned. If Canada merged with the US, there would be no tariffs, taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Together, what a great nation it would be. So he's saying this about Canada. He's also saying this about Greenland, but there's a big issue with that. We're going to get to that when we talk about Greenland. The people in Canada, the people in Greenland, they're used to certain social security safety nets that we do not get here in the United States. Are we going to be continuing to fund that? Are we going to be ripping that away from the people in Canada? Are we going to take away their free healthcare, education, their preschool? Are we going to be taking all that away? Because they get that for free. Their taxes pay for that. That's what their government spends money on, whereas ours spends money on endless military and war around the world. Justin Trudeau has responded to this. He says there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. Workers and communities in both of our countries benefit from being each other's biggest trading and security partner. Interestingly, Scott, why have I just blanked on his name? Why did I just blank, guys? You know who I'm talking about. Scott, hold on 1 second. Let me get to the, I've just got too much going on right now. Too much going on through my brain. Scott Ritter. Okay. Scott Ritter responded actually to this tweet, and he had an interesting response that people are now kind of raking Scott Ritter through the coals over, because they're like, what? Scott, has your account been hacked? He said, you cost our economy $100 billion in annual subsidies, and your military complicates continental security. Sorry, Justin, we get no benefit from your existence as an independent nation state. You, on the other hand, are viable solely because of us. Hell freezes over. Just ask the Eagles. So Scott Ritter is actually advocating essentially for Canada to become part of the United States. Yeah, I mean, look, they have a completely different system than we do when it comes to, they have all the things that many people on the progressive left have been asking for: universal healthcare, universal preschool, free college education. They've got a lot of these types of programs, and especially Greenland even more so. And what are Americans going to say about that? Maybe it'd be a good thing if we brought these countries in, then maybe Americans would say, hey, we also don't want to be spending all of our money on military adventurism around the world, trying to threaten Iran and doing all this military stuff. We want you to spend your money on us the way the Danes spend it on their people, the way Canadians spend it on their people. We want you to spend it on us. Make America great again, become more isolationist, focus on building America, the American people. We're suffering. We're being riddled in bankruptcy because of healthcare bills. We have the signs of a failed nation economically, where the rich are just getting richer and the middle class and the poor are getting poorer. And yet we see these other countries that we've now brought into the fold, and they get all of these things that we don't get. Would Americans scream about that? Or would Americans threaten and say, sorry, guys, yeah, we made you part of America, but guess what we're going to do? We're going to rip your healthcare away from you. Now, a lot of people say, yeah, but their healthcare system sucks. You can't get healthcare in Canada. You can't get healthcare here in the United States. Who are you kidding? Why do people even say that type of bullshit? Honestly, here in this country, you don't have $1 million to go get that great tech, that great advancement. You say America has the best, the best. You're not thinking of England flying over to the United States, getting the best healthcare. That's not you. You are the average person who are paying through the nose, and you're still being declined when you ask your insurance to cover something. You go to the hospital, you get your treatment. You're not actually ever being denied treatment. Quite honestly, you're never denied. It's just that you're being forced to pay for it. That's the difference. So you get access or you still have to, or some things you don't get access because it's not emergency. So if you need a knee replacement and your health insurance company says, no, we're not going to do it, or they say, yeah, we will, but you're going to have to pay this much X dollars, you still don't have access to that knee replacement surgery. So why are you bitching about a Canadian having to wait 6 months for theirs? Like, why are you bitching about that? You can never get it because you can never afford it. So why are you buying into the propaganda that, well, the Canadians, they have to wait 6 months? Yeah, well, you've been waiting 6 years and you still haven't gotten it. So this is just weird. I don't know, what Trump is talking about when he's talking about annexing Canada and Greenland and how exactly this is going to play out. The Canadians, though, have responded to this. Justin Trudeau saying not a chance in hell, but other Canadians have a different answer to it. It's a pretty good answer, actually. Watch this.
Hey, Donald, have we got a deal for you? You think we want to be the 51st state? Nah, but maybe California would like to be the 11th province. How about it? California, Oregon, Washington, you've got geography in common with us. And not only that, we've already got a carbon trading system between California and Quebec. We've got some strong alliances on our west coast from British Columbia. There's been a lot of academic papers on the idea of Cascadia. So California, Governor Newsom, and Washington State, Jay Inslee, and newly elected Governor of Oregon, Tina Kotek. How about it? Want to put a referendum to your citizens? Because this is what you deal. Have we got a deal for you? This is what you get. Free healthcare. Universal free healthcare. No more one-year-olds who suddenly fall off the Medicaid list and their parents are in the news because they're trying to do a GoFundMe so they can get their daughter to a doctor. Universal free healthcare. And guess what? Those gun laws that your Congress is too afraid to pass because of the national gun lobby, we already got our strict gun laws.
This is actually a brilliant response. I mean, I don't hope for this. I'm in California and I don't want to be part of Canada, but there are plenty of Californians who do. And the reality of it is, if Trump starts threatening Canada and kind of making these passes at them, and if Greenland, if he starts taking Greenland, there are going to be states in this union who are going to get some bright ideas. They already have those bright ideas. They already have those desires. They're going to get those bright ideas even more so. And they're going to say, hey, if Trump can do it, if he could just suddenly annex Greenland and threaten Canada like this, then we can leave. We can leave. We can go. We can be part of Canada. There are so many people in Washington, Oregon, and California who already want this. This is actually way more likely than Canada becoming the 51st U.S. state. It is way more likely that the U.S. Loses California, Washington, and Oregon to Canada. And Hawaii might go too. That, of course, would probably trigger a war. Probably wouldn't be let out of the union very easily, but nonetheless, there's already been a movement for some sort of exit, Cal exit from the union, and California being the most economically, robust state in the union. The union needs California. California hates Donald Trump. Many of them do. And I guess the two could play this game. So that's why it's a dangerous game. I mean, these types of threats are dangerous if the other side just doesn't take you seriously. If the other side says, you know what, I'm calling your bluff, go for it, buddy, then you've lost that art of negotiation, the art of the deal. What is your next tactic then? And right now, what Trump is doing, he hasn't gotten in office yet, so he could say a lot of things, but what he's doing right now is he's posturing, using a lot of strength. He knows that this riles up his voting base. They love it. They love to hear it. They love to think, all right, baby, America's back. I don't know what happened to this isolationism, MAGA isolationist. Let's focus on America. Let's focus on the American people, because this Donald Trump, this MAGA 2.0, is certainly more about expansionism, threatening war, and trying to grow, and put in more people under us that are going to require assistance and subsidies and whatnot. And I don't, this is not focusing on the American people. Suddenly we're going to be taking care of Canadians. We're going to be taking care of Greenlanders. The countdown is on before the new administration
This is Dabu 7. You were looking at an aerial view above the Palisades fire in California. This thing is absolutely out of control. The cause unknown, 0% contained. This is a mystery object that comes into the frame here. This was caught live, where this object that looks like a UFO or a missile comes flying into the frame. You can see it changes the trajectory. What is that? What is going on here? With all the orbs, drones, and the stuff in the sky, the UAPs, UFOs, whatever you want to call them, this is very interesting because this thing's flying around through the smoke just like a UFO would. Now, this is what it looks like around Los Angeles. Apocalyptic.
Never, ever, ever seen anything like this. I've been living here for 6 years. There's so much smoke that it is blocking the sun. You can actually see it. This is wild. You can see how dark it is over here. This is where the fire is, over in there. Crazy.
We also have a major alert here as we have a threat here for radiation to be released big time as this raging inferno approaches the Santa Susana Field Lab. And this is a radioactive area. Now, in the past, you could see this area is labeled as ground zero for nuclear meltdowns and toxic rocket fuel dumps. And there was a similar incident in 2018. They say that from this area, the radiation level's 19x the normal and just 9 miles away from the last blaze. So a heads up, anyone that's out there downwind from any of this smoke, you've got to realize that this can be toxic, especially from the areas it's ripping through. And we seem to have these mystery objects floating around as well. The footage I showed you is not the only clip. I had seen reports out of other live streams that some objects were in the sky that people could not make out. They're like, what is that? Reminds me of Maui, and then there's talk of the Dews. They have no idea thus far what has sparked all this. But it seems to me a lot of this is to wipe out many of these regions, to just remove everyone and everything in its path. And I find it very odd that the insurance companies as well have been canceling insurance on people right before this fire.
Now, that's what's going around. Before this fire, the insurance companies was canceling a lot of people insurance out there, but I haven't dug too deep.
Some of the craziest footage I've seen yet.
Just be okay. You're gonna be okay. Hi. You're gonna be okay.
No word if they made it out.
Oh shit. Don't worry about that, dude. Okay.
This is an attack. Prayers going out to everyone out there that needs them in this devastating moment.
Okay. The plastic is gone, dude. Yeah. Fuck. Okay.
And as always, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. As of right now, most of us already know about these horrible fires that have been impacting California. Many residents are impacted, but not just that. We can't forget all of the children and animals that are currently being impacted by these fires as well. As of right now, at the time that I'm recording this video, more than 1,000 homes, businesses, and other buildings have burned, and at least 2 people have lost their lives in these horrible fires burning across Los Angeles County, making this one of the most destructive firestorms to hit the region in recent memory. With that being said, people are asking the question, are we looking at another Maui situation? Which I don't believe that's a bad question to ask, given the fact that I don't think there's really anybody out there that believes that Maui was a natural fire. I don't think there's anybody out there that believes that Paradise, California was a natural fire. So with the horrible events that have happened before and certain things not making any sense, people are heavily analyzing what's currently taking place in California, and again, rightfully so. And people are noticing some pretty odd things about this fire, especially in the skies above this fire. This individual on Twitter, Cho Mama, tagged me in this video and said, "Minutes of horror, it's not black, but it's interesting." And I was thinking to myself, what do they mean by that? It's not black, but it's interesting. In this video that was captured by Fox News, you can see this white thing that looks like it has some kind of wispy tail shooting out of this smoke cloud, shooting out of the fire. But what's pretty strange is that once it shoots out of the fire at high speed, it begins to curve and then fly over the location. Now, I personally myself thought this was strange. Other people are saying that this could be some kind of dew, something that may have been used in Maui. Other people are saying that this could be some kind of plane. For instance, this person here, they are saying that, well, clearly some kind of plane with that tail on it. And given that it flies low and fast through the smoke over a fire, my guess would be that this would be one of the many types of fire management aircraft the Forest Service uses to fight fires like these. But that is pretty much the back and forth when it comes to this video. You have some people saying that this is strange, this could be a drone, this could be a UFO. You have other people saying this is something more natural, like something may have exploded and just shot out of the fire, or again, this could be a plane. So again, even though I find it strange, it's pretty hard to say with one video, but other video footage has come out. For instance, this other video from Fox News, which shows 2 of these flying in the air. Then I saw this next video, which made me realize what Cho Mama was telling me when she said it's not black, but it's still interesting, because in this next video, you can clearly see something slithering in the air.
Coming in, the Palisades is our neighbor, Topanga, Mandeville Canyon. We really want to welcome everybody into our city, and also for our residents here who are being evacuated, we want to make sure that they see us there with those that are receiving them at these shelters. So I plan to be wherever I need to be, welcoming people and continuing to push out information. We're asking people to follow our social medias, City of Santa Monica Instagram handle. All of us have our own Instagram handles as well. We'll be sharing that information, but santamonica.gov is the best place to go right now to click on all the links and get air quality reports, evacuation updates, and more information on the fire.
Again, also helpful. And before I let you go, a final moment here, Mayor Negretti. These evacuation orders, again, feel so surreal. I'm sure to you, as you mentioned, this is something that you saw from afar, and here it is coming to you, at least in the form of an evacuation order. For the folks at home who might be impacted by these evacuation orders, some of the best practices we've heard from, for instance, Supervisor Horvath, are to leave a note on the door, to leave the door unlocked. That makes people feel uneasy about leaving their home in that way in light of potential looters.
It was this video here that made me remember what this thing looked like. This thing looks like those black things that I have been talking about quite often on this channel. These black things that are seen flying in the skies at high speeds, slithering in the skies at high speeds during certain events. This is definitely no plane, but the way that this is moving, this is something else that's either being controlled or it's controlling itself, like it's some kind of creature, some type of entity, something similar along the lines, like I said, what we saw with those black flying things. But come to find out, it's not just the white ones flying in the sky, it's also the black ones that are seen flying in the skies above California as these fires are raging. This video was uploaded to Twitter by an individual named Rack. Many of these things were seen flying in the sky and captured on camera in Santa Monica Beach. I have absolutely no idea what I'm looking at here, but as I was researching this further, come to find out people in Maui, when the fires were happening in Maui, also recorded something white in the sky as well. Multiple white things and flashes of light were seen in the skies above Maui. Take a look at this video here.
Look behind you. Insane. Whoa, did you see that just shoot across? Did anyone else see that? It's windy, and then there's a flash, and I think that's when a tree's falling on a power line. The power goes out, our generator kicks in, the camera comes back online, and then the forest is on fire.
There are even others that are saying that this white thing is very similar to the white thing that had escaped the tsunami in Japan. Now, I don't know what these flying things are. This is the first time I'm seeing the white ones. These black ones have been seen in multiple locations during multiple big events. These black ones are also seen flying in the skies above Syria when Turkey was also attacking Syria. Now, if you do happen to find any more video footage of these flying things, whether you take them or you find them somewhere on the internet, please do tag me in them, because I am highly, highly interested in this subject.
any more evidence that liberals and liberal policies have completely destroyed California, then look no further at what's been happening over the past 48 hours with the massive amount of wildfires tearing across that area. You're looking here at the Palisades fire, upwards of 3,000 acres, all sorts of evacuations in place. This is, of course, all the fault of liberal policies, Governor Gavin Newsom, and the liberal policies that have destroyed California over the past decade, of course, and more. The images are horrible. The loss of life, the property loss is astronomical. If you've been following actor James Woods, who's been very critical of all these liberal policies, he's been showing videos of the back of his house basically catching fire now on social media, but he's just one voice in tens of thousands of people that have been affected by this. Firefighter, I mean, just look at these images. It's just unbelievable. And people are saying, oh, put on those N95 masks. And people are saying those aren't even working. The only thing that's working to keep the smoke out of our faces is a wet rag. Oh. That should speak volumes about masking policies, right? Firefighters, by the way, are also running out of water that should be flowing through these fire hydrants. Again, policies that have failed. Watch this.
Here on Walkman Lane, there are several homes burning. This is the one that firefighters were trying to put out a little while ago, but you can see right now it's just kind of out of control. Since then, firefighters have lost water pressure on the hydrant, so they can't get any more water onto this fire and the ones down the hill because of the water pressure issues.
Yeah, no water. But don't worry, Democrats are all over it. President Biden flew in, of course. And because President Biden flew in, any of the aircraft that could have been in the air to actually drop water on these areas had to be rerouted and weren't able to fly because President Biden, Air Force One flying in. That's a priority, right? So he lands. You think, okay, President Biden's going to do something here. Maybe going to really, I don't know, pull the governor off of water supply. Who knows what he's going to do? But he was there. So, Mr. President, sir, can you tell us, how is the fire management going? Mr. President.
They got notification yesterday their home was probably burning down. Today, it appears that maybe still standing, I'm not sure. But the good news is, I'm a great grandfather as of today. I was granddaughter. 10 times baby girl, a baby boy. So I remember this day for a while, long reasons.
Yeah.
That's all right for some.
So his fire did you hear the beginning of that? So yeah, his house burned to the ground. It burned to the ground. But the good news is I'm a grandfather today. So it's all about me. Forget your house.
Stop for ice cream after this too. So I'm doing good. I'm having a good day, guys.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I won't route your baby present through any Southern California shipping routes,
I mean, I'm sort of speechless about it. Like, this is your leadership in the United States of America. This is your president of the United States who flies in to tell everyone that your house is burned to the ground. But good news is I'm a grandparent today.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few things. Oh. Go ahead.
Sorry, isn't it standard practice during an emergency like that, the president waits until like things are situated before they drop in, like to not add more like chaos to the situation? I thought that was like pretty standard.
Right. Yeah. Because if you fly in, then that redirects all of the aircraft around that whole zone. So they can't come in. Reporters who were trying to get to that area as well had to be completely rerouted, heading to different areas. I mean, journalists, one thing, but getting actual aircraft up that are going to drop water. Sorry, you can't, because President Biden's flying in to tell us about his grandson being born. That's amazing. Thank God. All these leaders are failures. Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles, of course, here she is, Mayor Karen Bass. There she is, happy. Of course, a few months ago, cut funding before the wildfires, over unbelievable amount, $16 million cut in the months before the wildfires, $16 million. And then, of course, we found out today that she is in Ghana. She's not even in her state. So many people taking to Twitter to let her know. Like, I know you're in Ghana right now celebrating an inauguration there, or was it a wedding or inauguration?
It's a presidential inauguration.
Yeah, inauguration. Great. That's amazing. You're in Ghana. Back home, I don't know if you noticed, but your city has burned down. You want to come home, or you want to just have all the celebrations there? Don't worry, though. She's monitoring it from Africa. So it's all good. It's all good. The LA fire chief also being slammed because remember, of course, so many of the LA firefighters who were not who refused to take vaccines were then let go. Sorry, so they have a firefighter shortage in Los Angeles because of their liberal policies in that state. The LA fire chief, of course, is being hailed by liberals as the first female LGBTQ fire chief in Los Angeles. So this is a major focus, of course, of Los Angeles, is their fire chief has DEI policies in place. Watch.
I'm super inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I said, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
Yeah, so that's really what it's about, is the best and brightest. And so these DEI policies, of course, coming back to haunt the city of Los Angeles today. And why are these fires being allowed to flow unfettered? That's by Governor Gavin Newsom and the state legislature. That's the question that Donald Trump wants answered today. He just posted this. Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the Water Restoration Declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snow melt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in a virtually apocalyptic way. He wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it less water. It didn't work, but didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. I will demand that this incompetent governor allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. He is the blame for this. On top of all, no water to fire hydrants, not firefighting planes. A true disaster. Now, what is he talking about there? Well, back in 2024, September, Newsom vetoed that Senate bill 366, which was a legislative proposal aimed at enhancing California's water management strategies, which would have allowed water to flow from snowmelts and be captured. Also, back in 2014, California voters voted for this the proposition on water projects. Back in 2014, as Los Angeles Times writes, have no Prop 1 water projects have been built in California? No, but they're moving slowly. California voters back a $7.5 billion water bond. Yes, that was after the election in 2014. Over 10 years ago. They already voted for this. They already voted for better water management in California, and they haven't done anything about it.
Just on the 2nd of this year, January 2nd, so barely a week before these fires broke out, the Los Angeles Times ran this headline: LA's water supply looks good right now, but it might not last. So they were told that their government was sort of managing water, but it may not hold, even though they had voted in place these water management policies. And what the LA Times had said is that the weather's been pretty good, so we've had some runoff, so we're pretty okay. That's not management. That's not it at all.
Like people in the chat are saying, smelt lives matter, smelt lives matter. Yeah, it's not even an indigenous fish to California, smelt. So we're doing all of this to protect a little fish that's not even indigenous there. That's the focus. So environmentalists have gone to great lengths, of course, to really destroy California. Of course, the electric company, was it PG&E? PG&E, of course. They've gone to great lengths. They've spent millions of dollars, has PG&E, to try to make you all believe that the reason there's California wildfires is because of climate change, but not to totally distract you from the fact that they've refused to remove vegetation from beneath their power lines. Sparks that hit vegetation, of course, cause fires. It's not climate change that sparks the fires, but they've spent millions on, instead of cleaning up the vegetation and moving away from these power lines, they've in fact tried this education policy of trying to convince you that it's climate change. That's how they're spending their dollars.
But you do see fewer news headlines trying to sell this right now in the year 2024.
Climate change argument.
Yes, the climate change argument. And I've seen a couple of verified accounts on X trying to say this and getting dogpiled by community notes, because 85% of fires are started either human caused or some kind of, human living conditions that spark the fires. So they are not able to contribute this to climate change before they could just sell that without any kind of research. So that at least rhetoric has been tuned down, wouldn't you say?
I have. Yeah. And well, so people were sort of making fun of Donald Trump back when he was on Joe Rogan's show. A bunch of liberals and environmentalists were sort of dogpiling him about this. Turns out he was right when he said this just a few weeks ago before the election.
But let me give you one that you may not know.
Okay.
Which I think you know everything, actually, as
That's
a
not
student,
true.
as a student of yours. but water, in Los Angeles, you can't get proper amounts of water.
Right.
And it's unbelievably expensive. And you might have a house in Beverly Hills, and they're actually thinking about rationing water. Can you believe it?
I can believe
And
it.
I was in the farm court country with some of the congressmen. We're driving up a highway, and I say, how come all this land is so barren? It's farmland, and it looked terrible. It was just brown and bad. I said, but there's always that little corner that's so green and beautiful. They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why do you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north of water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. You got to see this. We're driving up, and I had never seen it before.
So he's exactly right. All to protect this fish gets rerouted. It gets dumped in the Pacific Ocean. And yet voters voted for it. Gavin Newsom voted against it and vetoed it. And in recent weeks, insurance companies have fled California, canceling thousands of fire insurance policies on homes that have had these fire insurance policies in place for decades. Watch.
They're waving me down. Hi there. That's fine. You decided not to leave.
I know I'm not supposed to be here, but this is my parents' home.
I know the feeling.
And they just they got canceled from their fire insurance. So they're dealing with this. They're 90 years old. And through the state of California, because of this, they're 90 years old. They've lived in this house for 75 years, and they've had the same insurance. And these insurance people decided to cancel their fire. And we're going through this, and it just happened, and they have no fire insurance.
Yeah.
That's suspicious timing, wouldn't you say, Clayton?
Yeah,
I'm just going to say that out loud.
Very suspicious. Just a few weeks ago, also suspicious. Thank you in our chat here. Trash Panda Real says PG&E have doubled power rates since 2021. Is that true? Wow. Is that true? How many of you live in California have seen your power? Wow. Doubled?
Well, it's also into Oregon. PG&E is like all over the West Coast. So
yeah.
Yep.
So their power, they've spent millions to try to convince you that it's climate change causing the wildfires when they won't go out and do this vegetation mitigation and actually clean up around their power lines. Now, back in 2018, President Trump said this, and he was widely mocked, of course, by people in the media about this when he was talking about going out to the forest and basically, and I think I think I made fun of the way he said it at the time, actually, because it was funny, the idea of people being out there with rakes and cleaning it up. But this point was true, which is you need to get rid of all of this brush that's underneath the freaking power lines. He was 100% right then, and he's 100% right now. Watch.
And you've seen what happened. You've talked about the forest fires. Now we're permitting and cleaning up these forests so it will reduce the threat of forest fire as well as creating jobs in these communities.
We're all to do that in California, by the way.
Yes, sir.
California's a mess. We're giving billions and billions of dollars for forest fires in California. There's no reason for those fires to be like they are. They're leaving them dirty. It's a disgraceful thing. Old trees are sitting there rotting and dry. And instead of cleaning it up, they don't touch them. They leave them. And we end up with these massive fires that we're paying hundreds of billions of dollars for to fix. And the destruction is incredible.
Yeah, he was absolutely right then. That was 2018, by the way. They still haven't done anything. They still haven't done anything about it. And by the way, Gavin Newsom promised in 2021, now that Biden is here, we've got a great partner in the federal government. We'll be able to, really fix our water problem and our wildfire problem here in California. We won't have any obstruction from people like Trump anymore.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Really? It's been a total failure.
But think about the fallout for all of Californians. Now, not just the ones who are affected by this fire, which is horrific, but everyone's insurance policies will go up. The cost for everybody will go up because of this. The federal government is going to take from Californians who are already living in the most expensive state to pay for this collectively in some form or fashion. This is now another tax on the working class that will affect everybody, not just the victims of this fire. I just don't know how anyone can vote for democratic policies like this that continue to make their lives so miserable. How can you vote against your own interest over the possibility of needing an abortion? I don't understand it. What about these people tell you that they are the leaders for your own interest? I need to know this.
Right.
I need to understand how you could vote for these people now, these incompetent people.
So delusional, right? I mean, the proof is in the pudding right now. There's a fun meme kind of going around of Gavin Newsom this afternoon. We can't play it here because of AI content, you know, YouTube doesn't allow that kind of stuff. But look for the meme of Gavin Newsom, basically a campaign ad, and it's him saying, basically him, you know, with AI voiceovers, you know, in a fire,
saying, I'm responsible for this BS.
Yeah, vote for me.
Yeah.
Vote for us Democrats.
This guy. All right. I mean, Gavin Newsom continues to fail up, right? He left San Francisco a shambles. He's leaving the state of California a shambles. He wants now the entire federal government because it's clear that he wants the presidency in the next election. So are you going to allow this, or are you going to actually run the numbers, dear voters? What's going to happen now? Is this now prime time for Californians to say, I think we need to change. I think democratic policies are not serving us. How about that?
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
Well, you could go knock on the people's doors in Pacific Palisades and ask them what they think of their governor. Oh, I'm sorry. All their homes are destroyed there now. So no one lives there in Pacific Palisades anymore. So you can't ask those people.
Yeah. Well, the World Economic Forum is in a panic that all of their puppets are being tossed out of power. So Charles Schwab no longer holds the strings to people in power. And you can tell by their documentation that they're releasing press releases and such in the coming weeks that for the Davos Economic Forum coming up, they're saying, we don't know what's going to happen because our favorite puppets have lost all their elections and power, ceded power. Here's a statement that they released just after Justin Trudeau resigned this week.
Yeah, here it is. Global cooperation at a crossroads, possibility amid rising geopolitical turmoil. But here, look at this. So here is the press release. The World Economic Forum's Global Cooperation Barometer. They have a barometer. It offers a critical assessment of state and global cooperation, showing a world grappling with heightened competition and conflict. The barometer is being released at a moment of great global instability and at a time when many new governments are developing agendas for the year and their terms ahead. So basically, we got to get out in front of this mess.
Right. So the things that caught my eye here are that global collaboration has flatlined, meaning countries don't set their agenda by the WEF anymore because people have voted for their leaders to stop that. That's exactly why. We can't help but wondering if they're panicking because their most powerful advocates, their puppets, are outgoing. Justin Trudeau, the Biden administration, Germany and France have both had a shakeup in their governments to the WEF loyalist. How will they set their agenda without their favorites? Now, look at this quote that Clayton just pointed out from this guy, the president of the WEF. He says he's worried that many new governments are forming their own agendas. Who the heck asked this guy to be worried about the leaders that we elect? Who made him in charge of what all of our elected leaders must prioritize? I mean, the hubris of that should make you want to punch your screen, but don't, because there's more redacted coming. This is how I read this. The leaders we want elected are outgoing. The new leaders that don't want to do what we tell them, this is a problem. He says there's a fragmented landscape, which I think is a euphemism for sovereign, which they think is a bad word. The WEF has certainly worked against that. So this is all in the run-up to the WEF Davos meeting, which is just in a few weeks. It kicks off, incidentally, on Inauguration Day, January 20th.
Good timing.
Yes. And look at what they call it. They say, we really need to meet in the wake of geopolitical shocks. What do they mean by that? It means their chosen leaders have been ousted. So it's a shock mostly to them. It's clear from their meeting announcement that this is what they mean. It says, as we emerge from disruptions of democracy in this record year, we look to the shifts away from incumbent parties, and it suggests a new era. So I mean, that's weird, right? They're calling this a disruption of democracy. Do we have that screen? The next one? Yeah, that one. I would say that's just democracy. It's not really a disruption. It's the fact that we hated everyone you chose for us.
Right.
We chose for ourselves. That's not a disruption of democracy. That's democracy working.
Canadians,
you just happen to hate it.
Canadians rising up saying we've had enough of Justin Trudeau and his WEF globalist agenda in Canada. You've destroyed Canada. Talk to any Canadian. Canada is a totally different place than it was 15 years ago. Justin Trudeau's government has destroyed that country. What did you think was going to happen? People are sick of it. Like in Europe right now, just look at Europe collapsing, right? They're sick and tired of it because most of these countries, 80% of the decisions are handled in Brussels. They're not even handled in their own country.
Any WHO, WEF affiliation, now people can see right through it. It means we don't stand for the working class. We only stand for the power of the few.
Right.
And so who in their right mind would show up at Davos in this political climate? I mean, I don't know. I think if you're going to show up there and put it on your social media, you're going to mark yourself as a globalist, and people don't stand for this anymore. But we will be going over the agenda that they release in the coming days. So yeah, who's going to go there? Who is aligned with Davos? Now you can tell that the program is very heavy on rebuilding trust, this geopolitical shift. How do we work with these new governments that we can't control? It very much feels like they know that voters have sent them a middle finger, and we don't want our leaders aligned with Davos anymore. So it's fun to watch.
Philip, you're
for me.
I just want to point out just the irony of starting that statement out by saying like, well, governments have been listening to us, and the world is just in shambles. It is an absolute dumpster fire out there, and we're worried that they're going to stop listening to us. Like you just prefaced the problem that you are the problem, and then you're worried that people aren't listening to you. You don't understand why. Like it's just baffling.
Well, right. And you're absolutely right about that, because all of their agenda items, right, the move towards a central bank digital currency, move away from cash, moving towards a centralized form of government, away from sovereign states. They don't want the United States to be a bastion of free speech. They absolutely hate that. They want total control. They want a world government that is free of you pesky voters who get in the way of it. That this is on their agenda. We've gone through multiple. Just give a few examples of their agenda items over
over the past few years, it has been very heavy on, phasing out world governments and having global power. Last year, we pointed out that they were planning for Pandemic X, and they were actively planning for some kind of disease to hit the ground so that they could retake government control. This next year, and we're going to go over the agenda at length like we do every January. It's our redacted tradition. It's very heavy on AI. They very much want you to be outsourced by AI because they can control that. That's a little spoiler alert for you. Shocking, I know.
Yeah, shocking.
Well, my favorite takeaway from the last one was the AI bot that basically watched the interactions in your office to determine who was possibly having psychological issues with work.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Just the casual mind reading and mind control stuff at your job. Nothing big, but
yeah,
I remember those ones.
Yeah, and then they would basically report that person to HR, like that they needed psychological help because AI was watching in your office and monitoring everything. And they said this with glee.
Yeah,
the absolute glee.
Nobody wants that anymore. Actually, I might, because I work with my husband.
I'm very stable. I'm a very stable. I'm a very stable genius. If there's one thing that we love in the Morris household for dinner, it is steaks, delicious steaks. All three of our kids love it. We love it. It's one of our favorite meals of the week. And now that the holidays have passed, you're like, hey, how can I get a little present for myself? Well, you can, thanks to these civilians have nothing to do with your conflict, your war zone, and they try to seek shelter and get away from that area. And then the military targets them specifically. Snipers shoot them in the heads, brutally bombing and carpet bombing their homes. That is considered genocide. I know it's shocking, right? Well, it's about damn time. Finally, Secretary of State Antony Blinken issues a forceful statement on genocide. Let's all read it together. Here is Antony Blinken. After reviewing the horrifying information of suffering inside Sudan, he wrote this morning, I have concluded that members of the Rapid Support Forces and allied militias have committed genocide in Sudan. The United States is committed to pursuing accountability for these atrocities. Thank you, Secretary Blinken. Oh, Sudan. Oh, Sudan. I see what you did there. I got you. Not that other place that shall not be named or mentioned by anybody in the mainstream media. You can't do that. Where the exact same thing is happening. But Sudan we can talk about. Blinken, of course, went on to justify his position on genocide. Remember, it's just Sudan when you read his comments here. The RSF and RSF-aligned militias have continued to direct attacks against civilians, he writes. The RSF and allied militias have systematically murdered men and boys, even infants. Really? Even children? On an ethnic basis, he says, and deliberately targeted women and girls from certain ethnic groups for rape and other forms of brutal sexual violence, he says. Those same militias have targeted fleeing civilians, murdering innocent people escaping conflict, and prevented remaining civilians from accessing life-saving supplies. Just so we're clear, systemic murder of infant children on an ethnic basis. That's what he says. And targeting of women and girls. That's what he says. Targeting fleeing civilians who are trying to escape. That's what he said. These are not my words. These are his words. That's a genocide. But only in Sudan. Only in Sudan. And by the way, if we need ISIS or Al-Qaeda because we pay them and we created them, we even created Hamas, by the way. We can conveniently describe when something is a genocide and when something is not a genocide, when we need those people to carry out certain things for us, right? As Caitlin Johnstone reports, she lays this out today. She says, the mountain of evidence is overwhelming, of course, that Israel is carrying out a genocide against civilians. Again, these are Caitlin Johnstone's words based on the evidence. I'm quoting her now. Just so we're all clear, she says, it's a fully established fact that the IDF is deliberately killing civilians in Gaza. There was a time in the early days of the genocide when this could be disputed, but that's no longer true. The facts are in, and the case is closed. It's happening. Israeli soldiers are telling the press that they've been knowingly killing civilians and then falsely categorizing them as terrorists afterwards. Yes, the IDF has admitted this in the press. Countless doctors have also testified to routinely encountering dead and wounded children who've been shot in the head by Israeli snipers. Israeli media reports have revealed that the IDF is intentionally targeting civilian infrastructure and using AI systems to specifically target suspected Hamas members when they're not at home with when they are at home with their families, instead of out in the battlefield. The debate is over, she says. The human shields argument has been completely thoroughly debunked. If you still deny that this is happening, it's because your worldview is so false that it requires you to deny facts and reality. So Blinken last week on his exit interview, his final exit interview, where he was asked specifically about like genocide over here you can categorize, but genocide over there you can't. Here was his response.
Do you, Secretary Blinken, worry that perhaps you have been presiding over what the world will see as a genocide?
No, it's not, first of all. Second, as to how the world sees it, I can't fully answer to that. But
it's like a sniveling worm.
Everyone has to look at the facts and draw their own conclusions from those facts. And my conclusions are clear.
Okay. So
a man's got to do
we've done
what
that.
A man's got to do.
We
Clayton.
just did that with facts. So again, you can have your own jaded worldview. You can have some sort of thing where you're inflexible to facts. I can't stand people like that. When presented with facts, they literally don't change their opinion. Avoid those people at all costs, by the way. You're not, you are not, you're not allowed to have your own facts. You can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts.
I want to hear what Philip has to say, but I have a lot of problems what he just said. Go ahead, Philip.
Oh, that was basically it. We've done that. So thank you for allowing us to look at the facts and draw our own conclusions. And the conclusions are pretty damn clear based on the facts that it is a genocide.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. But he's not worried. He doesn't have to worry about it because he's drawn our
No.
He's out the door. Yeah.
Also, the part where he says, I don't worry about what the world thinks. That's kind of your job. You've been telling us that Russia's evil for 4 years. You did actually tell us what to think for a long time. So
yeah, I mean,
what is it you do again?
What is it you do here?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to ask. What is the Secretary of State's job? Isn't that sort of like worrying about what the rest of the world thinks? Like,
yeah,
maybe that
being a diplomat with the world, right? Creating diplomatic relations with the world. That's what you're supposed to be doing. I like what Lee Dobson in our chat says. Notice how his lips always move when he's lying. Exactly. And of course, just to put a footnote on this, President Biden and Blinken this week just pushed through another $8 billion weapons package to Israel in the last days of his term. So genocide in Sudan, we're outraged. There you go.
Have they looked at the Donbass region of Ukraine too?
No,
there's some facts there that I would like to present.
They're not going to look at the genocide in the Donbass, in Donetsk, and all of that area for the past 12 years. They're not going to look at that either. But that's a convenient forgetting of what a genocide is. But
okay,
hypocrites.
Cool. Well, President Trump is scheduled to be sentenced for the bookkeeping case related to the Stormy Daniels payments on Friday, but his lawyers now have gone to the Supreme Court and asked them to block the
So for those of you not from Los Angeles, this might help orient you and give you a sense of the Palisades fire. So there is downtown Los Angeles, right? That is downtown. It's actually a fairly clear day there. You can see the mountains behind downtown. And of course, right about over there is the Hollywood sign. Can't really see it today because there's some residual smoke out there in the basement. And of course, what we're looking at here is Santa Monica Bay. Looks very nice and peaceful from this side. But when you pan out a little bit, you see that there, right there, is the Palisades fire. And it appears to be burning most heavily in the mountains just above the Palisades. Again, panning out for orientation's sakes, right of the screen is Santa Monica there. And there is just a gigantic plume of smoke that is blowing about southwest over the ocean. But really just a tremendous plume of smoke there in Pacific Palisades, which, is visible from much of the Los Angeles basin today.
Before I begin this video and my commentary, I just want to say my thoughts and prayers are out to those who are affected by this. And man, I'm just so sorry that this is happening. What you just watched, the first video, were patients being rapidly evacuated from the hospital due to the Eton fire near Los Angeles, which quite literally, man, looked like hell on earth, as Nick Sorter, pointed out. Nick Sorter pointed that out. And then the last one, obviously, was just giving us, I think I'm about to sneeze again. Excuse me, y'all. It was giving us a view of what's going on. I believe, how you say that, Palisades fire, what's happening, man. And it's just really tragic right now. So what I have on the fire right now and everything, in terms of the update right now, says since today, several significant wildfires have actively been burning across Southern California, fueled by strong Santa Ana winds and dry conditions. And they're giving us a little summary right here. It says the fire located in Los Angeles County has rapidly grown, with reports indicating it has burned over 12,000 acres. It has led to significant evacuations, with at least 10,000 households evacuated and numerous structures destroyed. The fire has been exacerbated by critical fire weather conditions, including wind up to 100 miles per hour, low humidity, and dry vegetation. Now, California has had their homes insurance canceled prior to these fires, and the LA mayor is in Africa. And we do have the LA mayor actually responded to this that we're going to get into in a bit. I think that just came in as I just started this video. But there's no water to put out these fires, according to Liz Churchill, and California is next to an ocean, is what's been reported. Let's watch this clip from, what is this, Fox Local?
My heart goes out, obviously, to the people with their homes, and I'm watching the small businesses around us go up in flames. This is people's livelihoods, so it's devastating. But what is most concerning to me is our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this. There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country, and we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of tough questions that we need to ask the mayor and the city council and our representatives and the county representatives. Why didn't you work to mitigate this? What was your brush?
They sent a lot of equipment to Ukraine. That's what and that's a fact. They sent a lot of firefighting equipment. I remember the story to Ukraine.
Mitigation program.
They ain't got shit.
I heard you earlier talking about it's been dry because there hasn't been rain. That's not the biggest problem here. The brush up in these hills that are controlled by the city and the county, I would bet you that if they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years. This was a disaster waiting to happen. And what's predictable is preventable. And who's paying the price are all of these people in their homes and their businesses tonight. Now, we'll rebuild, but the majority of this community is going to have a tough time rebuilding their lives.
You have wildfires spreading rapidly throughout LA County and no water. I really want to know how it works. Genuinely want to know.
Revolutionary salute to our queen, Yaya Kids, for the donation to the war chest. Revolution is the way of life. Appreciate the love, queen. Salute to you. I see you still up.
People are reporting for the mayor base to resign and saying that, it should be in disgrace. And people saying this kind of stuff is ridiculous. Insurance companies should be responsible for all these premiums. And these people I paid for years, and then on a whim, they cancel their coverage. And they saying California has been a sad story for such a long time. This is a stark testimony to how far it has fallen. So much suffering and tragedy. Definitely. Now, I told y'all we're gonna get to LA Mayor Karen Bass, her responding to what's going on, and she avoids all the questions as her city is burning down, her city, right? But before we get into that, Colin Rugg had posted this video of a woman says her parents' fire insurance got canceled shortly before the fires ripped through Southern California. The woman says she is forced to defend the house herself. Quote, they got canceled from their fire insurance. They're 90 years old. They lived in this house for 75 years and they've had the same insurance. Wow. So thank you, California insurance companies, as she added. Let's check it out.
I know I'm not supposed to be here, but this is my parents' home.
I know the feeling.
And they just they got canceled from their fire insurance. So they're dealing with this. They're 90 years old.
Cancel the fire insurance, and then the fire started.
Through the state of California. Because of this.
Now they got to leave.
They're 90 years old.
It's about smart cities.
They've lived in this house for 75 years, and they've had the same insurance. And these insurance people decided to cancel their fire. And we're going through this, and it just happened, and they have no fire insurance. So thank you, California insurance companies, supporting residents who pay taxes and love California.
Big
And they
man
wonder
ripping
why
the
people
little man
leave
off.
California.
First and foremost, you
Insurance
did get your
company
parents out
CEOs better
safely.
be careful.
I live in Sierra Madre, and my parents are in Sierra Madre, but
And now you know that it is under evacuation as well north of Sierra Madre Boulevard.
yeah, I snuck here. You know, there's a will, there's a way. Probably shouldn't do it, but you know what? Under the circumstances, send me to jail. That's fine.
This is really sad. This woman is deciding to risk her life in order to try to maintain her parents' property, despite the obvious severe evacuation warning. You, on one hand, you can definitely admire this. On the other hand, you could definitely have a separate opinion that wouldn't favor what she's doing. But it's sad that her family has had this insurance company all these years, and right before this happened. So is that a coincidence? Do you guys think?
It's unbelievable what's happening here to the neighbors. Your parents' house is still standing. You had a hose. You're doing what you can.
I mean, I have a hose. It doesn't compare to these beloved neighbors that I've known. I was born and raised in this house, and I live in Sierra Madre, and I'm now 62 years old. And this is the house I was born and raised in, and I've never moved out of Cascadia, Sierra Madre, Hastings Ranch.
Well, let me tell you, it does help for people who aren't here to know what's happening. So you sharing that story, it does a service. I came up to you without even asking your name.
My name is Lynn Levin Guzman. This is the Levin household. I'm a nurse for over 30 years in emergency room. I deal with fire all the time and firefighters. And this situation here, luckily people got out because those are my patients. The people who are not so fortunate to get out.
As you mentioned, let's just hope everyone's okay. Lynn, I'm gonna let you get back to it. And for you taking the time, we thank you. To your parents, we wish them the best as well. As I send it back to you, there's Lynn again with the hose. She's using a garden hose, getting the awnings, getting the roof of the house, doing anything she can. We say that as the embers are blowing directly on us here in the Upper Hastings Ranch community. She's here, her brother's here, and you know that there's other, let me tell you, the majority of the homes in this community are still standing. We drove past many on the lower side that are still standing, but the night is young.
Absolutely, a long way to go, and a courageous woman at that. And she does bring up a great point that we should talk a whole lot more about, and that is the fact that so many people are now uninsured when it comes to a fire.
A lot of the blame is being shifted to Gavin Newsom. They're saying that insurance companies have been pulling out of California for years now because of him, and the news doesn't report it at all. And they're saying, recall him. And they also says that they didn't fill their water reservoirs and have no water to fight these fires. This is insane, nefarious, if you ask me, for sure. The insurance system in this country is definitely broken for sure. Somebody else added, I feel for her, but the fact is, if insurance companies know there's no water and there's no remediation plans for fire control, and the woke politicians just don't care, how can they approve policy? I mean, how can they approve policies? Fire insurance has been going away for a couple of years now. As I promised, we're going to listen to LA Mayor's Karen Bass and, really just watch her avoid all these questions, basically. Let's hear this pathetic response.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
Wow, she can't even say my heart is going out to the families, at least, like nothing? Seriously? This is pissing me off.
No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
So was she in Ghana as it happened, or did she go to Ghana as it started?
Man, let me find out the lady was in Ghana with that fake come home, Black Americans, get your citizenship scam, because now they let me know it's a boule scam. Oh, I'm gonna dig deep into that. Oh, so that's where you was at. Ghana was just getting out. Yeah, Umar Johnson. I seen Umar Johnson. He got his Ghanaian citizenship. Oh, boule scam, lady. Ah, you got hit with the 52 fake. You went there, and then they burnt your city down. Now they blaming you.
Started to happen. That's a very big, that's, provides a very different set of context circumstances for me. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm over here like, okay, well, if she was out there and it happened and she didn't make it a priority to come back, that's a problem. And if she knew it was beginning to happen and she still chose to go, that's an even bigger issue.
Madam Mayor, let me ask you just again, have you anything to say to the citizens today as you return?
Hold on 1 second. This is utterly ridiculous.
Madam Mayor, just a few words for the citizens today as you return to deal with the catastrophe.
You take this down.
Ridiculous.
David, as you say, she wasn't very keen to answer any of your questions there. And fire chiefs are also admitting that they just don't have enough personnel to take out the fires.
Yeah, they're fighting all sorts of challenges. They're talking about a water shortage. There are reports of fire hydrant failures. They've been unable to use firefighting aircraft for much of the day due to the smoke that is billowing ominously from the hills where the wildfires are raging. And I suppose despite that political storm, this is, of course, at its heart, a human story, because we've now 80,000 people evacuated. Tens of thousands of others are on standby to be evacuated. 2 lives have been lost in the Eaton fire, which is what's causing the consequence behind us. The city's iconic landscape almost shrouded completely by the smoke. And they're really just taking it one step at a time, hoping at some stage the wind's going to change direction or to die down, and that they're going to be able to get this fire under control.
If you're supposed to be a leader of the people, a great leader, somebody who is there and you were voted to be that, you're supposed to at least acknowledge the people. But this is typical Democrat behavior. You can't even send a positive sentiment towards the people whom are being affected by this. That's real scum behavior. And yeah, now I'm over here like, you want to be on vacation? You should be disbarred, right? If this is the case, she's deserved all the contempt in the world, and just come on, man. This is complete failure and mismanagement. And also, seeing photos of Gavin Newsom pop up, all that, man. And right now, I'm also seeing flashback videos. They said they're bringing Trump into this, meaning he warned Gavin Newsom before about this, saying Trump stood next to Gavin Newsom and stressed the importance of proper forest management after wildfires swept through California in 2018.
Cleaned out and protected. We got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that, to that end, and it's going to work out.
Not only that, just 4 months ago in LA County, Trump spoke about the need for California to send more water downstate.
And you have so much water, and all those fields that are right now barren, the farmers would have all the water they needed. And you could revert water up into the hills where you have all the dead forests, where the forests are so brittle. Because no place is like California. I go to Austria. The head of Austria tells me, we have trees that are much more flammable than what you have in California. We never have forest fires because they maintain their forests. And you have all that water that could be used as water, what they call water flow, where the where the land would be damp. And you'd stop many of these horrible fires that are costing billions and billions of dollars by the federal government, et cetera. So one thing I'm going to do for California, vote for me, California. I'm going to give you safety. I'm going to give you a great border. And I'm going to give you more water than almost anybody has. And the farmers up north are going to be able to use 100% of their land, not 1% of their land.
Actor James Wood breaks down in tears as he describes the fires in Los Angeles. Obviously, it's heartbreaking, man. And just going through all this information is really, really tugging at my mind. Just knowing all these families are being affected by this. And Los Angeles is refusing to fill the water rivers, how you say that? Reservoirs. And there's no water in the fire hydrants for the firefighters. Like, what?
On the hill, we finally got into the sunset congestion. It's 9 miles to Beverly Hills. It takes us usually about 25 minutes. Took 2.5 hours. And you have to understand, somebody didn't charge their car, their electric car, didn't put gas in their gasoline car. And now they're on Sunset. Now I got to abandon my car. And now the fire trucks can't get through. And now people can't walk. When we couldn't get our garage door open because the wind was blocked, because our door goes up like this, I said, oh my God, we're up in the hills here. And we got to walk out. I'm 77 years old, man. I can't walk up these hills. It's like Mount Everest here. It's like, pretty steep. So, it's just, I posted this on X, but Sarah was on with her 8-year-old niece last night. She came out. I'm sorry. Just, one day you're swimming in the pool, and the next day it's all gone. But she came out with her little Yeti piggy bank for us to rebuild our house.
Oh my gosh, James Woods, we all hope that you will be able to rebuild your house, maybe starting with that little Yeti piggy bank. And we're just glad that you're okay and your wife is okay.
I'm sorry,
you have your lives. Yeah, no, I thought, this is real and it's raw.
I thought
and
I would be stronger than this.
You don't need, you are, you know what? Strength is not measured by whether, you hold in crying or not. Strength is what you are doing now and helping your neighbors and shining a light on the great, amazing work of all those firefighters and emergency crews out there. You have so much strength, and we appreciate you coming on to reflect what so many others just like you are experiencing in that raw emotion right now. We wish you the best, you and your wife, as you rebuild your lives. So many people are doing that right now and trying to process what's going on. So, James, and also keep us posted on your 94-year-old neighbor and everything going there. We're going to continue to talk, and we wish you the very best.
Okay. He's okay.
Yeah.
It's very heartbreaking to watch people suffer from something that could have been controlled a lot better, reduced and mitigated. But instead, these woke ideologies are prioritized rather than the safety of the people. It's just silly to me. I'm trying to make sure we don't have any new reports right now. Somebody wrote, why would Newsom continue to allow these things to happen? Watching them break down in the tears like that really just and look at this. Biden to announce final $500 million in Ukraine. $500 million in Ukraine military aid. It ends about $65 billion in security assistance under Biden. Trump would get about $3.8 billion more to use if he chose to. And Charlie Kirk added, on a day where Americans in Los Angeles are watching their homes, their pets, and businesses burn and can use some aid, the Biden administration is preparing to send another $500 million to Ukraine. It goes to show you the priorities of these Democrats right now. Scrolling down, you see right here, lives a TikTok posted. Los Angeles Fire Department celebrated in a pride parade. The police chief handed out pride flags to attendees. She is hailed as the first female and LGBTQ chief and says her priority is DEI. Okay, there's music attached to this, so we definitely want that to keep going. Your tax dollars pay for this is what they're saying. It's kind of breeze through it. You just see people scrolling, the pride parade right here. And what's being reported from Nick Sorter an hour ago, he says that 293,000 people are now under mandatory evacuation in Los Angeles, a 300% increase since this morning. A new evacuation order just came in for Santa Monica, for the Santa Monica area. Over 400,000 people are without power, and the fires are still not contained. They're contained to 0%. Yeah, man. Los Angeles, she was on Karen Base. I'm sorry, Karen Base. Yeah, so what we're saying right now being reported is just horrendous. It's too much, honestly. I don't want to scroll into nothing that we don't need to see, so let me transition out of this. Now, this right here just came, man. New drone shot over Pacific Palisade. Oh, man, I got it. Let me learn how to say this word. Hold on. Got it. Palisades. Drone shot over specific Palisade show and shows entire blocks of homes burned to the ground by the Los Angeles fire. More than 15,800 acres and 1,000 structures have already been destroyed. Mandatory evacuation orders have just been issued. I mean, look at this, y'all. These were homes, bro. These memories were created. Families, it's all just gone. And let me guess, they're gonna send people what, $700 like they did for Maui, and that'll be it. 700, like, bro, like Gavin Newsom, you got some explaining to do, man. This is a complete and total devastation.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Listen, prayers up to everybody in California right now. There is so much going on. If you guys haven't heard, yes, fire is raging through California, specifically Southern California, starting in the Pacific Palisades. Homes are being evacuated. People are fleeing their cars and leaving them in the middle of the street to save their lives. Bulldozers are being called to move people's cars out of the road. It looks like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Everybody who is anybody is trying to flee. However, in the midst of all this, there is still exploitation going around. You guys, what am I talking about? Incarcerated labor is fueling California's firefight through a slave hole loophole, a slavery loophole. You guys, this is ridiculous. The People's City Council of Los Angeles said, while you're watching these fires while you're watching these fires grow across LA, understand that incarcerated people make up 30% of California's on-the-ground wildfire crews. This is directly from, of course, Diet Prada, did all the research for that. Make sure you follow them on Instagram. California is burning. Multiple fires broke out across the state on Tuesday, affecting areas such as the Palisades, Malibu, Altadena, Pasadena, Slimar. Governor Gavin Newsom has declared a state of emergency, evacuating at least 80,000 people from LA, with 2 deaths reported so far. The fire is expected to worsen, with 100-mile-per-hour winds fanning the flames. But who is on the front lines of these deadly fires? California's incarcerated. Oh, and for the 20th of what professional firefighters make in the day, despite inmate fire crews accounting for 30% of the state's wildfire forces, this is according to the LA Times, the average California forestry and fire protection Cal Fire firefighter earns $50,000, only $50,000 to $64,000 to risk their lives, plus benefits including health insurance, pension plan, and death benefits. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, that is the CDCR, says inmates in the program, which began during World War II, are paid between $5.80 and $10.24 per day, with an extra $1 per hour during disasters. 2 months ago, California's voted against Proposition 6, which would have banned involuntary servitude for incarcerated persons in the state, known as the slavery loophole. Political reports prisoners who decline or cannot complete these jobs can face severe consequences, such as delays in parole eligibility or loss of family visitation privileges. Look at this carnage on your screen. You either go into that hellhole or you may lose family visitation privileges or parole eligibility. Meanwhile, the CDCR launched the Youth Offender Camp pilot program in August 2023, recruiting incarcerated 18 to 25-year-olds to help replenish its dwindling wildfire labor pool. As climate change creates more ripe conditions for wildfires, California remains in danger. The state is home to
Ain't
14
no
of the
climate
15
change.
largest fires on record since 2007, per the LA Times. Nevertheless, LA Mayor Karen Bass proposed a 2024-2025 budget cutting LA Fire Department funding by $23 million. The adopted budget already reduced it by nearly $18 million. Meanwhile, LAPD's budget increased by 8%, totaling $2.14 billion.
She finished.
Reliance on prison labor from the Golden State highlights a serious exploitation issue. Without systematic change, those incarcerated will continue to be preyed upon for vital labor. As wildfires intensify with climate change, remember who is fighting your fires. You guys, you know what the sick thing is as I look at this carnage, which disgusts me? It looks at that old adage, first they came for my neighbors, and then they came for me. However, there's more. LAPD's budget is $2.14 billion. Why is that important? Because Hasanabi on Twitter posted something saying, they said, good thing we cut the fire department funding by $23 million while increasing the police department budget by $138 million. They said the cops will shoot at the fire. Jonathan on Twitter said, Malibu's iconic sand castles are crumbling one at a time. This has been a numbing and terrifying 14 hours in California history. They then said, now the California fires are getting so bad that people are abandoning their cars and fleeing on foot. Bulldozers have been called in to remove the abandoned cars. I'm getting Maui vibes, and I hate to say that. Aditi said, the thousands of incarcerated firefighters enslaved and forced to labor by California without access to health care or adequate nutrition, who are putting out the flames set by piggy politicians addicted to extraction at all costs are owed everything. Everything. Another person said, the more I find out about the way this country and the way we profit over others' pain, the more I'm disgusted and radicalized. Saya posted an interesting TikTok saying this is by far the craziest video from the fire in Los Angeles. This guy is filming huge walls of fire surrounding the house they're in. There's another person and a dog. I have no idea why they didn't evacuate or what happened to them. Let's hope they're okay. Oasis said, California fire is such heart-proof. We need a massive investment in emergency services for these disasters, but this country is more likely to create Uber for evac choppers that only rich people can afford. Soul said, California is paying the cost of bipartisan climate destruction. We have never had serious, effective presidential or congressional leadership on this crisis, and there's no escaping or rationalizing this reality. But can we also say that, right? Can we also say that even on the state level, so much is put in California, especially Southern California, into the wealthy areas, the wealthy this, the wealthy that. But when people are buying these 100 million, 200 million, 600 million, okay, fine, there's not a 600 million mansion, but let me just get my point. Buying these crazy things, this wealth tax that they have to put on mansions, why do they not make people pay a tax for fire services, private fire services, that when these things happen, they have to jump into action before they jump into the rest of the neighborhoods? There's so many things that should be done. There's so many tax dollars can be spent. Tell me how the LAPD's budget is almost triple what the LA Fire Department budget is when these wildfires happen every year. The city is under siege, unfortunately, by its own politicians' greed, lack of remorse, and not caring about the average people. Proposition 6, a California ballot measure wants to ban slavery. But why is it losing? Proposition 6 would close a loophole allowing involuntary servitude in prison. But backers face an uphill battle in explaining it to voters. Why? Because when you go to jail, the state thinks they owe you, and they are paying 30% of the people fighting this fire right now, $5.80 a day to risk their lives. Why Amazon is getting richer while Facebook and Instagram are gorging people. Why Walmart is literally trying to get legislation passed that they can do a face scan and charge you a different price than the next person based on the maximum amount they can get over on you. While consumer protections are being lifted, why so much is happening in this country? We see it falling apart. We saw it falling apart metaphorically. And now we see it going up in flames literally. Again, it's insane that the ballot measure to end slavery in California failed to pass. Proposition 6, and if you're asking yourself what this has to do anything, it has to do because instead of paying people to fight fires, a fair livable wage, instead of investing in our infrastructure, instead of doing everything, these private pay-for-play prisons somehow think that they'll make the prisoners do it while they continue to leech every drop from us. Proposition 6 would eliminate this so-called slavery loophole in California's Constitution. Like the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, it bans slavery and involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime, a provision that has allowed prisoners to force their inmates to work. California inmates can currently be required to take on jobs ranging from kitchen and janitorial work to making license plates and fighting wildfires. Around 40,000 of the 90,000 people in California prisons work, and they typically earn less than $1 per hour. Turning down those jobs can come with serious consequences, including delayed parole eligibility and denial of certain privileges while in prison. What's more, and it needs to actually be said, okay? Even if you believe, oh, well, these people, they're criminals, they don't deserve to be paid. That still doesn't explain everything. Why are you asking people to risk their life? Not even asking, demanding these people risk their lives. And if they don't, they only get paid not even $6 a day. And if they don't risk their lives, they could not go up for parole and they could have serious consequences. Even if you say, oh my God, they don't deserve to be paid. Look at this carnage. Why are not the livable wages, the minimum wages that they would have paid them? Why aren't the companies paying it into a victims relief fund? How about that? Okay, fine. You don't deserve to get paid. You get $1 of it. And guess what? The money you make goes into the victims relief fund for you to pay the victims of the people you actually hurt. But that's never an option, is it? Again, I fear the way this country's going. It's disgusting that so many people are forced to risk their lives. It is disgusting that even the people that aren't in labor are forced to risk their lives for a mere $64,000 a year. It is disgusting to me that in the last 10 years, there has been the biggest single transfer of wealth from the middle class, working class, and poor to the top 0.001%. And it's disgusting to me that in the time in 2025, this is what we're looking at. You guys, social media had a lot to say about this.
Kofi, follow me.